So Tna Impact was a live show from Tupelo, Mississippi. And the show starts off with Sting and Kurt Angle. They come out to the ring, and Sting gets on the mic and basically talks about Bully Ray's plan of deception and how it led to his winning the World Heavyweight Championship. And then Sting says that he's going to strip Bully Ray of his power by taking the title at Slammiversary. And he says that he didn't want to wait until June the 2nd. So that's the reason why he assembled a team to go up against Aces and Eights. And that meant getting the best of the best. And Sting acknowledges Kurt Angle as being that. So then Angle takes the mic and says that there is one guy that can make the difference in the battle against Aces and Eights. And that guy is AJ Styles. So Angle calls out AJ Styles. Styles comes to the ring. And Angle tells Styles that he and Sting are ready for war. He wants to know if Styles will join them. But AJ Styles says nothing. Then Angle demands an answer and gets in Styles' face. And then Sting casually slides in between them and gently pushes Angle back. He takes the mic again and he tells Styles that, he's been there. He's been mysterious, hanging in the rafters. And Sting tells Styles that they need him. And, Sting turns to the fans, to get behind him in order to convince Styles to join them. Sting goes on to say that he knows Styles wants to do it and asks him to team up with them. Sting extends his hand, but AJ does nothing. Then Angle grabs the mic again. He gets into Styles' face and demands an answer once again, but Styles leaves the ring. But Angle follows him down the ramp. Angle stops him. Some shoving and an exchange of words occur, and then Styles and Angle start brawling right there on the ramp. And then a couple of referees come out, and Al Snow and Simon Diamond, TNA agents, of course, come out to break them up. Meanwhile, back in the ring, members of Aces and Eights, that being Bully Ray, Devon, and Mr. Anderson, they sneak up on Sting. Anderson nails him from behind, and then Sting staggers forward, and then Bully Ray and Devon give him the 3D before leaving the ring as Angle returned. I thought it was a very solid opening. And as far as the 6-man tag later in the night, it continues to add the intrigue as to whether AJ Styles changes his mind, maybe not, since we saw what happened, or does it result in them having to find somebody else to be their partner? So then we see AJ Styles walking away backstage, and he's asked, why he left Sting and Kurt Angle without giving them an answer. And then Styles briefly stops before pushing open, one side of double doors and leaving. So then we had the women's tag team match. Velvet Sky and Mickie James against Gail Kim and Tara, along with Mr. Duh. Now, I had previously given TNA credit for allowing Tara to come out by herself, which allowed her to be more relaxed and more comfortable as the heel that she should be. Now I have to take that credit back because she came to the ring with Mr. Duh. And once again, before the match and during the match, she's displayed that kissy poo heel type that is not her. Now let me turn to ODB for a second, the quote-unquote referee for the women. Alright. Black shorts now instead of pants. And I may have been mistaken with this, but during part of that match, was ODB actually holding her flask in her hand? Yeah, that's what I thought. Oh boy. This match sucked. It just sucked. Basically, the match ends with Velvet getting the hot tag from Mickie James. And then Velvet hits Tara with 2 barely connecting clotheslines. And wait a minute. I think it's inaccurate to call them clotheslines. Let's see. Arm taps. Barely connecting arm taps. So let me go back. Velvet gets the hot tag from Mickie James and hits Tara with 2 barely connecting arm taps. And then Velvet Sky follows that up with a reverse neck breaker. It's okay. And then she attempts to do the in your face. Is that what it's called? Yeah, I think that's what it's called. And then Gail comes in. Velvet kicks her in the midsection and tosses her out of the ring, and Gail collides with Mr. Duh. And then Tara is crying for Mr. Duh. And then as Tara turns her attention back to Velvet, Velvet kicks her, delivers the in your face, and gets the pin. And the winners of the match are Velvet Sky and Mickie James. Now, after the match, Gail is bitching at Tara. Tara shoves her. And then Gail Kim clotheslines Tara. And then she drags Tara over to the ring post and executes another figure 4 leg lock around the ring post, as she did last week against, well, not against, but as she did with Tara and Terrell. Now, did you notice ODB, as she was breaking up Gail's hold, she had the flask in her hand as she's trying to break the figure 4 leg lock? Are you serious? Alright, so basically we just got the same match we got last week. Instead of Tara and Terrell, we had Velvet Sky. And once again, no Mickie James tinges. Now I'm wondering if TNA has put a halt to Mickie James's heel turn, because it looks like they're putting all of this push behind Gail Kim now with this aggressive side that she has been showing. Well, look, Velvet versus Gail at Slammiversary, no. It's already been done. We saw it at Lockdown. And I shudder to think if TNA believes that if they suddenly shut down the Mickie James tinges, therefore shutting down the heel turn, and thinking that if they suddenly do it sometime in the future down the road, that we're going to think it's this big surprise. No, TNA. We're not that dumb. I know you think we are, but we're not that dumb. Now the Gail Kim Tara thing, I just kind of came out of nowhere, and I really don't get that. Because, if you're thinking about turning Tara face, and if Mickie James remains a face, then that means Gail Kim is the only heel in your company. But let me take a detour for a moment, since we're talking about Mickie James. Mickie James did an interview recently, and she talked about a subject that TNA has not talked about, won't talk about, and should be talking about. The Women's Tag Team Championship. In the interview, Mickie James basically said that she doesn't understand the logic as to why the Women's Tag Team Championship has not been utilized. She basically said, they put the belts on, ODB and Eric Young and haven't done anything with them, even though the belts shouldn't have been on them to begin with. And that's me adding that. And of course, that bled into the discussion of bringing in more women into the company, which we all know they need to do. And Mickie said, well, we need to bring in more women so that we can pair them up into teams so that we can have a tag team subdivision within the women's division. And you can see that which wrestlers work together, which ones don't, which ones are going to make money, which ones are not. And I mentioned this because I'm so appreciative of her for finally saying something that Dixie Carter won't talk about. Because this is something that management should be discussing, not talent. Talent should never have to talk about these kind of things. But I appreciate that Mickie James did. So, back on the main road. Aces and Eights are backstage drinking beer. And D'Lo Brown shows up late, I guess. And then Bully Ray says that it's time for club business in the ring. And, all the other members leave. And D'Lo Brown is standing there with this sad look on his face as if he knows, what's about to happen. And then we see Bad Influence approach James Storm and, backstage. They give him a 6-pack of beer and, they remind him of his setbacks with Rude, hitting him in the head with a beer bottle and his most recent, engagements with AJ Styles. And Daniels makes an offer to Storm, to join them, and I guess Bad Influence would be a threesome, I guess, I don't know. And then they leave, and Storm takes a swig of beer. Okay. So then Aces and Eights comes to the ring, and Bully Ray talks about the 6-man tag match that's going to happen later in the show, and then he gets to the club business. Now, I don't know if any of you caught this. Some of you may have, but when Bully Ray started addressing D'Lo Brown, do you notice when he said, a couple of weeks ago you disgraced yourself? Of course, he was making reference to D'Lo Brown losing that match to Kurt Angle where he put his colors on the line. But you notice Bully Ray said a couple of weeks. Now, in real time, it actually was a couple of weeks, because that was the taped show that was done after the live show 2 weeks ago. But in wrestling time, it was actually last week. So, you know, a lot of people probably didn't catch it, but Bully Ray went by real time rather than wrestling time. Not really that big of a deal, I guess. I mean, I just thought I'd mention that, because I thought it was kind of interesting. So Bully Ray tells D'Lo to turn in his colors, but D'Lo says no. Bully Ray once again tells him to remove the colors, but D'Lo says his cut is his life, and he refuses. So then Garrett Bischoff and Wes Briscoe, you know, they remove his vest, and then Mr. Anderson tells D'Lo that he quit and this club is not for quitters. So then Bully Ray asks D'Lo what he is going to do to get his colors back. And D'Lo says he's going to kick Magnus's ass in order to get his colors back. But Bully Ray says no. He's going to sit with the timekeeper as the director of chaos takes on Magnus. And Bully Ray goes on to say that Doc winning is the only way that D'Lo Brown is going to get his colors back, or have any chance to get his colors back. Okay. And then we see Magnus walking to the ring. And then they go to a commercial break, and then come back from the commercial break, and the match is already in progress. How about this? This probably doesn't make sense, TNA, but I'm going to go for it anyway. How about having the commercial break first, and then we see the start of the match after the commercial break? Makes too much sense? Okay. I guess it does. Decent match. The match basically ends. Doc delivers a flapjack on Magnus, and then he whips Magnus off the ropes, but Magnus reverses the whip, and then D'Lo, without looking, grabs Doc's leg. And I guess he's thinking that he grabbed Magnus's leg, and then, you know, Doc is struggling to get free, and then Magnus comes up from behind and rolls up the director of chaos to get the win. So now D'Lo Brown's 3-foot hole he's in has now become a 6-foot hole, because now he has to answer to Bully Ray once again. So we see Aces and Eights backstage again, and D'Lo Brown is apologizing to Bully Ray for his fuck up. And then Bully Ray tells the members to hold D'Lo down, and they grab him and they hold him down, and Bully Ray takes out his hammer and he threatens to hit D'Lo in the head with it. But then Mr. Anderson stops Bully Ray, and he says that he should give D'Lo Brown a job that he can actually do. So then Bully Ray tells D'Lo that he's going to be fetching beer and ice, as well as washing their bikes, and that he's been knocked down to being a prospect. Now I wonder if this includes him keeping Bully Ray's belt nice and shiny, and probably Devon's too, even though Devon rarely defends it. Taking over the duties of Garrett Bischoff, because it's a running joke I've been having about Garrett Bischoff being the one keeping Bully Ray's clean, but I guess that's not his job anymore. So then we see Sting, Angle, and Hogan backstage, And Hogan wants to join Sting and Angle for the 6-man tag team match. Of course he does. But Sting and Angle tell him no. The doctor said that Hogan is not in any condition to wrestle. I'm sorry. He's not in any condition to wrestle. More subliminal. But Hogan says that he has a wild card. But Sting tells him that his wild card doesn't sound like a sure thing, and instead they should get Magnus to be the third member of the team. And Hogan agrees. Of course Hogan wants to be in the match. Of course he does. So then we see Robert Roode and Austin Aries backstage. And it's obvious that TNA didn't learn anything from last week when they saw how Roode and Aries came off when they were serious-minded, because it was back to them being bad influence-ish and doing that shtick. And I didn't really pay any attention to what was said during this segment because I'm still so pissed off about this. And just watching TNA just ruin this opportunity that they could do, you know, with Roode and Aries. It's just a shame. So then we had the number 1 contenders match for the World Tag Team Championship. Robert Roode and Austin Aries against Bad Influence, Christopher Daniels and Kazarian. Now, I want to talk about this supposed botch by Christy Hemme. Christy Hemme introduced Roode and Aries as Bad Influence, Christopher Daniels and Kazarian. This had to be a work, and I know as of this recording, news has come out about this particular segment, but it had to be a work. I mean, the reaction that Roode and Aries showed should have told you this. And if it had been an accidental botch, don't you think that Christy Hemme would have immediately corrected herself when she saw Roode and Aries walking to the ring? I mean, it wasn't until Aries cornered her when Christy, who was laughing, by the way, said, "Oh yeah, I meant Robert Roode and Austin Aries." And do you really believe that Christy Hemme would have been cool with Aries putting his crotch in her face unless she knew it was part of a work? Now, yes, I've read some information today that Christy Hemme is incredibly pissed about what Aries did. She went on Twitter and said it was unacceptable, quote unquote. But the way it came off, it had to be a work. Now, if I'm wrong, I'll say I was wrong. Because unlike some people on YouTube, I will admit when I'm wrong about something instead of pretending to be right about something all the time. Anyway, as far as the match, good match. Piece of shit ending, but good match. I mean, James Storm ended up super kicking Christopher Daniels and Austin Aries and then leaves the ring. So no decision on the match. No number 1 contenders named. And no doubt as to how much of a mess that ending to a good match was. Now, what does this mean? Possible three-way at Slammiversary for the World Tag Team Championship? Possibly. It doesn't look like the jack-off match is going to happen. But the three-way, possibly. And then we see Aces and Eights backstage, and they are attacking Magnus. And eventually they take him out completely. Now I'm sure that some of us had a feeling that this was going to happen once Magnus was named as the third partner for Kurt Angle and Sting. And we were just, waiting for it to happen. Because I kind of had that feeling, honestly. I thought, yeah, Magnus is going to get jumped. And it happened. So then we see a video segment on the return of Suicide. Suicide was voted by the fans as a contender in the next X Division qualifying match. So I believe that will be on the 30th. May 30th will be the next qualifying match. And then we see another video pushing Chris Sabin. So then we see Kenny King come out. He comes to the ring and he basically talks about the fact that he won the X Division title by being fantastic and spectacular and exceptional. But he says that wasn't good enough for TNA, so now they're making him beat two guys in a match. Kenny King says that he always beats the odds, and he wants to talk about somebody who really beat the odds, that being Chris Sabin. So he wants to talk about Chris Sabin, so he calls Sabin out. Sabin comes out, and Kenny King wants Sabin to tell his story for the people. And then Sabin goes into, his story about his rehab, talks about his drive and determination. And he tells King to enjoy his title for now because he will be taking it next week. And then Kenny King calls Sabin an inspiration, and he allows Sabin to hold the X Division belt. And then King says that he wants Sabin to hold the belt because it will be the closest that he comes to being X Division champion. So then Kenny King snatches his belt back and tells Sabin that he's not winning the belt, but then Sabin ends up with the belt back in his hand. And then Kenny King tells Sabin to give him his belt back. And he does that a couple of times. And then Sabin throws the belt at him and hits him, and then King leaves the ring. Now this was a very good segment. This was Kenny King looking the best that he has ever looked. And guess what? We actually saw a storyline formed in the X Division. Some of you have been telling me the X Division doesn't need storylines. Well, this particular segment showed you that it does. But I do have two gripes. A small gripe and a larger one. Small gripe first. A champion should never allow a challenger to hold his championship belt. You don't let anybody hold your belt. You can hold the belt up in that guy's face and taunt him and say this is the closest that you're ever going to get to it. But you don't ever let anybody hold your belt. I mean, the fact that you saw Kenny King, asking for it back. Why don't you take it? First of all, he shouldn't have even been holding the belt to begin with. But if he is holding it, take the damn belt back. Don't ask for it. But he shouldn't have been holding it in the first place. Now, this has nothing to do with Kenny King. That is a creative no. That was my small gripe. Here's the larger one. Now, the fact that you're pushing this rivalry between Kenny King and Chris Sabin would lead one to think, oh, wow, man, I'm looking forward to that Kenny King-Chris Sabin match. I can't wait for that to happen. But it's not. Yeah, we seem to be forgetting about a third person because the X Division matches are three-way now. Where was Petey Williams in this? Why wasn't he out there? It would have made a lot more sense. Not that the segment wasn't good, because it was, but it would have made 100% if Petey Williams had been out there. Because remember, the three-way rule. So one would think, oh wow, Kenny King, Chris Sabin. No. Kenny King, Chris Sabin, Petey Williams. And that's why these three-way rules have got to be eliminated. Because these potential one-on-ones that people want to see, Sabin against Williams, that's another matchup people want to see. And you're not going to get that one either, as long as these three-way rules are in place. So it's time to get rid of them. So then we go backstage and we see some commotion. We see James Storm laid out on the floor with a chair next to him, and then you see Bad Influence and Rude and Aries, being separated, or they're kept from engaging with each other. Okay. And then we see a promo for a tournament which will feature 4 previous Gut Check winners. That being Alex Silva, Sam Shaw, Jay Bradley, and Christian York. And they will compete in this mini tournament. And the winner of the tournament will be a participant in the next Bound for Glory series. Okay. I like this. And I am hoping that Jay Bradley wins this. I really like Jay Bradley. He reminds me of Stan Hansen. Those younger wrestling fans out there don't know who Stan Hansen is, go on YouTube and check this guy out. Look at his matches. The guy was incredible. And Jay Bradley reminds me so much of Stan Hansen. But I think we know who we're gonna see win this. It's probably gonna be York. But I am hoping that it's Jay Bradley. So then we see Aces and Eights backstage again, and Bully Ray says that even though everyone in the group is not happy with D'Lo being a fetcher, it's all about weeding out the weak. And I guess they said after they win the 6-man tag match, they're going to look for women, and I guess D'Lo is going to be washing bikes and fetching beers and while they're looking for women or something like that. And then we see Sting and Angle on their way to the ring, and Hogan is on the phone with the so-called wild card, and Sting and And Angle tell Hogan they can't wait because they got to go to the ring, for the match. So then we have the main event, the 6-man tag team match, Bully Ray, Devon, and Mr. Anderson against Sting, Kurt Angle, without their mystery partner. Decent match. During the match, we see cameras backstage, and the other members of Aces and Eights are laid out on the floor as if someone single-handedly attacked them. Basically, the end of the match saw Sting and Bully Ray in the middle of the ring with their heads together. They start brawling. Sting pulls Bully Ray's legs out from under him and puts a Scorpion Deathlock on Bully Ray. Outside the ring, Mr. Anderson slams Kurt Angle's head into the ringside steps. And then Devon pulls out a table from underneath the ring and shoves the table into the ring. And then Bully Ray and Devon set the table up in the middle of the ring. And I knew that this mystery partner was obviously going to come out at this time, but I did not want to see the lights go out. I'm tired of that crap. Do not do that. And I'm glad they didn't. Usually it's reserved for Sting, but I don't want to see the lights out anymore. And then we hear music playing, and then Abyss comes out. Starts whipping some ass on Bully Ray and Devon. He puts Mr. Anderson through a table with a choke slam, and then he black hole slams Devon, gets the pin, and the winners of the match are Sting, Kurt Angle, and Abyss. And then the show ends. Now the fact that we see Abyss should mean that we should not be seeing Joseph Park anymore. It would make no sense to see Joseph Park anymore. Yes, dumbass Joseph Park. But this is TNA. We're going to see Abyss one week, and then we're going to see Joseph Park the next week, and then, they're going to be partners. And somehow they'll pull that off. And we're supposed to just believe it and say, yeah, gotcha. We got you. If TNA wants us to be dumb and believe anything, then what happens when they want us to be smart but we believe nothing? I'm Tazmart 2002, and that was my TNA Impact Analysis for May 9th, 2013. If you're listening to me on YouTube, please leave your comments below. Click the like or dislike button, and if you subscribe, I would really appreciate it. You can also listen to me on the Wrestling News Talk Facebook page, and that page is run by Andre Corbeil. And he also has a YouTube channel, Andre Corbeil, Corbeil. So if you haven't checked him out, give him a look. He knows his shit. If you have any questions about TNA or wrestling in general, you can get at me on Twitter, TAZMARK2002. And if your comments exceed the 140, come at me with an email, Tazmart2002@gmail.com. It was a solid show. And next week we have the X Division Championship match. Kenny King versus Kira Saban and Petey Williams, and the start of the Gut Check tournament to determine who goes on to the Bound for Glory series. Now, it was recently announced that starting May 30th, TNA would be moving back to 9 o'clock with Impact. I think that it will prove to be a positive move creatively. And I think that it can be a positive move financially. But it's interesting that it's a new move to an old time slot for a company in which the old are the new. Interesting. I'm Tasmar 2002. Gone.